I'm about to tell you something that will shock most hospital administrators, but won't surprise a single nurse watching this. Nurses aren't quitting because of burnout. They're quitting because they're broke. When a nurse making $32 an hour in Orlando does the math on their bills, they end up with a negative balance every month. But then they open Instagram and see nurses in California making $140 an hour posting their $9,000 paychecks. But that's the part nobody talks about. My name is Jason. I make $109 an hour as an ER nurse. My wife Monica makes $140 an hour as a per diem nurse, and we only work 20 hours a week. But just 5 years ago, we were both working well over 40 hours per week in New York City, struggling to pay rent with zero savings and mounting debt. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why underpaid nurses are walking away from their jobs in record numbers. I'll show you the shocking data that proves higher pay equals better retention. And most importantly, I'll give you the exact steps you can take to double your nursing income just like we did. Because that BS that they told you in nursing school about it's a calling, not a paycheck, that's just a convenient way or lie for hospitals to tell you in order to pay you less. A calling doesn't pay your student loans. It doesn't pay your rent, and it sure as hell doesn't fund your retirement. Low pay doesn't just hurt feelings, it destroys careers. You've probably heard this before. If you're a nurse and you're in nursing for the money, you're in it for the wrong reasons. What a load of crap. You can be passionate about patient care and expect to be paid what you're worth. These aren't mutually exclusive. So here's what the research actually shows, and it's mind-blowing. A massive study of 26,000 nurses found that higher wages directly led to higher retention. When nurses got paid more, they stayed longer, period. But hospitals don't want you to know this. Instead, they'll hand out pizza and pens during Nurses Week while denying your request for a $2 raise. They'll hang Heroes Work Here banners while scheduling you for 6 patients per nurse. I've seen nurses with 10 years of experience making $37 an hour taking care of 7 critically ill patients at once. Meanwhile, the hospital CEO is making $5 million per year. And then they have the nerve to act shocked when nurses quit. If a hospital says they value nurses but pays $35 an hour to run full units by yourself, they don't value anything but their bottom line. The cold hard truth is that when you're overworked and underpaid, money matters more than the team spirit, pizza parties, or motivational quotes in the break room that they want you to worry about. Nurses don't leave because they're weak. They leave because they're smart. One comment that makes my blood boil is when older nurses say something like, "Back in my day, we just pushed through. Today's nurses are too soft." Really? Let's compare. In 1990, a nurse making $40,000 could buy a house, support a family, and still save money. Today, a nurse making $70,000 might live with roommates or commute 90 minutes because they can't even afford rent near their hospital. This isn't about being soft. It's about basic math. Let me break it down so clearly that even your hospital administrator might understand this. Let's say an Orlando nurse is making $32 an hour, working 36 hours a week. That's $59,904 per year. After taxes, that's about $45,000. And now let's take the monthly expenses into account. You're paying $1,700 a month for rent, $500 for groceries, $1,000 for daycare, $700 for car and gas, $300 for student loans. That's $4,200 monthly, or $50,400 yearly on a $45,000 take-home salary. You're $5,400 in the hole every year, and that's without a single vacation, coffee, or Netflix subscription. The only way to survive is overtime, extra shifts, picking up nights and weekends just to break even. So when people ask, why don't nurses just stay loyal to their jobs? The answer is simple. The job was never loyal to them, because respect isn't a pizza party. It's a number on your paycheck. Nurses today aren't quitting because they're weak. They're quitting because they finally realize they're being exploited. Higher pay equals higher retention. I know that sounds shocking, right? Now let's talk about the places where nurses actually stay. What's their secret? Is it better management, better culture, better snacks in the break room? No. The data is crystal clear that higher pay equals more nurses staying. There was an Iowa study that was conducted. And I should mention this. There is not enough research out there that has been done about nurse retention and correlation to the wages that they make. But this Iowa study showed that even a $1 an hour raise for nursing assistants dramatically reduced their turnover. $1 made people stay. But here's where it gets interesting for RNs. We've talked to nurses in California making $100 to $140 an hour. That's not travel pay. That's regular staff nurse pay. These nurses aren't leaving, and why would they? They work 3 days a week and make more than most people working 5 days. They take actual vacations. They pay off their student loans. They buy houses. They invest for retirement. The money doesn't just pad their bank accounts. It gives them freedom. You know, that's the part nobody talks about. That's actually one of the reasons we're building this app called MapMyPay. We keep seeing nurses move across the country for what looked like a big paycheck and a big pay bump. But when you factor in housing, taxes, cost of living, it's like they're actually worse off. So we're building this app where you can compare cities side by side and see what your paycheck's actually worth after all of that. It's mainly for nurses, nursing assistants, licensed practical nurses, nurse practitioners, registered nurses, midwives, CRNAs, nursing professors and instructors, and nurse managers. But it works for anyone outside of the nursing industry who's looking into these areas and wondering, should I stay where I'm at or take an offer in another city? Anyway, it's not live yet, but if anyone watching wants to try it out early, you can join the waitlist at mapmypay.com, and I'll let you know as soon as it drops. Okay, back to the story. Now compare that to the Texas nurse or Florida nurses making $32 to $36 an hour. They're working overtime just to make rent. They're picking up extra shifts just to afford groceries. They're sacrificing time with their families just to stay afloat. Some hospital executives will say we can't afford to pay California wages. But here's what they don't tell you. Replacing a nurse costs between $40,000 and $80,000 in recruitment training and orientation. If your hospital has a 30% turnover rate, which many do, you're hemorrhaging millions in replacement costs. What's more expensive, giving nurses a $10 an hour raise or replacing a third of your staff every year? When you pay nurses what they're worth, they stay longer. They become experts in their specialty. They mentor new nurses. They create the stable, experienced workforce that hospitals desperately need. When the pay is right, people build careers. When it's not, they're already updating their resume. So pay and respect equals nurses who never leave. Let's be real. Money opens the door, but it's not the whole story. The hospitals with the lowest turnover do two things right. They pay well and they treat their nurses with respect. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Kim works at a hospital making $95 an hour on a telemetry unit. She has a maximum of 4 patients. Her charge nurse has her back. When she raises safety concerns, they get addressed. Her vacation requests get approved without guilt trips. Is Kim job hunting? Hell no. She's planning to retire from that hospital. Now meet Marcus. He makes $42 an hour, but gets floated to a different unit every other shift. He's routinely assigned 7 patients. When he speaks up about unsafe patient conditions, management says we're working on it. Marcus updates his resume every night after his shift. Both nurses care deeply about their patients, but only one works in a system that cares about its nurses. When hospitals get this right, you see the difference immediately. Nurses stay for decades, not months. Experienced nurses mentor newcomers. Units function like well-oiled machines, and patient outcomes improve dramatically. This doesn't happen by accident. It happens when hospitals make a conscious decision to invest in their nurses with both money and respect. So, what can you do right now? And no, you're not stuck. Maybe you're thinking, great, Jason, but I can't just quit. I have bills. I have kids. I need this job. I get it. I've been there. Both me and Monica have been there. But here's what I want you to know. And what I know for sure, you're not powerless and you're not stuck. There are 3 things that you can do today to change your situation. Step 1, know what you're worth. The data is going to shock you. Most nurses are underpaid because they have no idea what they could be making elsewhere. I just updated our spreadsheet on top hospital salaries in California. Look at the screen right now. The top 5 hospitals, Stanford, UCSF, Kaiser in Northern California, El Camino, and City of SF, all pay new graduates over $90 an hour. That's not a typo. Brand new nurses with zero experience start at $90 to $101 per hour. That's over $168,000 annually, plus benefits, pension in some of these hospitals, and union protections. Are these jobs competitive? Absolutely. But nurses get these jobs every day. So if you're working somewhere paying $42 an hour with no pension and dangerous staffing, it's time to ask yourself, why am I killing myself to earn less? Step 2, use this information to get paid. Knowledge is power, but only if you use it. That's why I created this channel. When I discovered these California salaries years ago, it changed my life. Now I want every nurse in America to have this information. We're building an app called Map My Pay that is going to revolutionize how nurses think about compensation. With this app, you can compare salaries across the entire country, see real pay stubs from real nurses, calculate cost of living differences, view crime rates, school ratings, and housing costs, and connect with nurses who've made these moves. Just make sure you click on the link in the pinned comment to get early access when we launch this app. Once you know what's possible, you can negotiate from a position of strength. Walk into your manager's office with data and say, I love working here, but nurses with my experience are making $30 an hour more at the hospital down the street. How can we close that gap? Will this always work? No, but you're going to be shocked to know how many hospitals suddenly find money when they realize you know your worth and have options. Step 3, be willing to move for life-changing money. Sometimes the best opportunity isn't in your backyard. It might be across the state or across the country. That's what Monica and I did. We left New York City for California and it completely transformed our lives. We went from barely making rent, zero savings, and mounting debt to a net worth of nearly $800,000 and a combined income of $300,000 while working fewer hours. Now, instead of picking up overtime to afford groceries, we work 20 hours a week and spend the rest of our time with our kids, traveling, and building our business. Some nurses ask me, but what about my family, my house, my kids? I get it. Moving isn't easy, but neither is spending the next 30 years underpaid and overworked. You don't have to move tomorrow. Start with a 6 to 12 month plan. Update your resume and credentials. Connect with nurses in target locations. Research housing and schools. Apply for licenses in these new states and start interviewing even if you're just practicing. Because every month that you wait is another month you're leaving money on the table. This isn't about greed. It's about freedom. Let me be crystal clear about something. Fighting for better pay isn't about driving fancy cars or buying designer clothes. It's about freedom. Freedom from financial stress. Freedom to work because you want to, not because you have to. Freedom to say no to unsafe assignments without fear of not making rent. Freedom to build wealth that will support you long after your body can't handle 12-hour shifts anymore. The best paying hospitals in California prove that's possible. When nurses are paid what they're worth, they stay. Not because they're trapped, but because they finally found a place that values their skills, their education, and their sacrifice. And if they can do it, you can too. Click the link in the pinned comment to join the waitlist for our Map My Pay app. And if you want to see exactly how Monica and I made over $300,000 last year while working less than part-time hours, click on this video right here.